Hi guys, it's Becky. I know it's been a really long time and I want that to change. I feel extremely unreliable and I don't want anyone to think I don't care about this channel because I do. I've just, these past months have been difficult. And that seems to be just the way it is for now. I'm doing everything I can to make it better. And I'm fully aware that tomorrow is a new day and that things can be okay. I've been doing a lot of work to figure out how to help myself and get through the things I'm dealing with. But I wanted to take some time to comfort anyone who has OCD. Because I do. And I was not diagnosed until this year. No, last year. I was diagnosed last year. I have had symptoms for a very long time, pretty much my entire childhood until now. And the reason I want to talk about it today is because I have been really struggling with intrusive thoughts. Now, if you don't know what that is, anyone can have them, okay? Anyone. Don't have to have OCD to have them. But they are basically an unwanted thought that comes in without you even thinking about it. It kind of just is there suddenly. For me, mine are all over the place. There's several subtypes of OCD, and I struggle with many subtypes, many different themes when it comes to my obsessions, my compulsions, and the intrusive thoughts that come with it. Currently, my OCD is worse than my borderline. I have never been able to say that about any disorder before because borderline is extremely painful. I think currently it's kind of a mixture of both for me. The extreme emotional reactivity and the deep passion, the deepness of emotion that I have is torture. It is excruciating, and I have cried more than I care to admit over this past month. For me, my intrusive thoughts are very disgusting, dark, painful. Some of the ones I'm willing to share, because I will not share the ones I'm having currently, are one of the ones I have the most is, what if I yank my steering wheel in one direction and cause a crash? What if I jump off this bridge? What if I run into traffic? What if I leave the door open or the door's unlocked in the house? Will someone come in and break in and kill all of me and my family? What if I leave my animals home alone? Will a fire start and kill them? Like, very, very, very disgusting, like horrific thoughts. And those are the ones I'm willing to share. Some of them are even worse, that just as soon as they pop into my head, I automatically cry. And it's just so painful. It is so painful. And I'm having really bad ones right now. And I have been for about a month. I have not been able to update anyone on how things have been recently because I haven't been on this channel. But I went home to England for 3 weeks, and it was a wonderful experience. I've only ever been back twice now, and I left when I was just shy of 5 years old, and I'm now 27. So the first time I went back, I was 22. But I miss it, and I love going, and it's so special to me because that's my home. That's my home country, my homeland, and I do not identify as American. I sound American, and people automatically assume that I am, but I'm not, and I do not identify as an American. This is where I live. It's not my home. It's not where I'm from. It's not where my roots are. My roots are in England. And it was a wonderful experience. I got to be there for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, which means 70 years reigning. She is the longest reigning monarch in England, which is pretty impressive. And I had no idea that we were going to be there for that. So that was so, so special. Hi guys, sorry about that. My video cut out. So, as I was saying, got to be there for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, which was absolutely amazing. Once in a lifetime experience, and it was so, so special that we were able to be there for that. I got to be there I got to go to Wales while I was there, just a little tiny town, like right underneath England, because Wales is a country right under England, and it is part of the United Kingdom, as well as England, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. The Republic of Ireland is not part of the United Kingdom, but those 4 nations are. So it's a country made of countries. But that was so, so cool. I really wanted to go to Wales. I've always wanted to go. So it was really special that I was able to go. And yeah, so it was a lovely experience to go home and be able to experience the United Kingdom. But it was overshadowed by intrusive thoughts. The entire time. We flew into London, and London Heathrow, and I love that airport, and I love London. But there are places in London that I cannot go, because they're triggering for me. I'm a very, very sensitive individual. I absolutely love going to places that are significantly old, and pretty much everything in the United Kingdom is old. Some of the buildings there are hundreds of years old. And it is fascinating to me that I'm walking, the same place as thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people have gone and walked the same place. And I find that fascinating, and it's so special to me to be able to connect with people and with the earth in such a deep way. And I'm blessed in that I have such deep emotions, because it's lovely, but it's also a curse sometimes when it's taken to an extreme. And that's what it was. My empathy and my feelings triggered intrusive thoughts in London, and they are continuing now. I've had them for a month, pretty much, and they are so painful. I've cried so many times, and I've looked up, like, the things that my intrusive thoughts are based around. I have looked up online to see if anyone else understands and feels how I feel about these things. And it's impossible to find. Like, people don't talk about OCD. They don't talk about the horrific thoughts that come with it. And it's not my fault. It's not something I want. It's not, I would never act on my intrusive thoughts ever. Some of them are, like I said, so disgusting and absolutely out of character for me that I just cry as soon as they start. Um, but this was like horrible. And it's hard to talk about. But I will, because I feel like people who do have OCD, or any disorder for that matter, that has stigma or shame surrounding it, is going to feel alone. And that's why I have this channel in the first place. It's to open people's eyes and show them that we're people and we have feelings, and it's not okay for people to judge us based on a label. Yes, that label does explain some of my behaviors, my thoughts, my actions, but that is not me. That is not who I am. I am not just someone with OCD, just someone with borderline personality disorder. You know, I'm not just my disorders. But it's hard when so little people talk about it, because it's hard to find comfort. And when I was in England, I hid it. You know, I didn't want to ruin everyone else's trip. I didn't want to burden anyone else with the thoughts that I have, because they're traumatizing. They're excruciating to have, and it's not fair that people like me with OCD have them. It's not something that we want. So I wanted to take time to make a video that does what I've been looking for, which is give comfort to those who have OCD. So that's what I'm going to do. You know, I've wanted someone to say, this isn't your fault. You know, this isn't something that you can control. It's not something that you would do. You know, these thoughts are involuntary. There's something that happen. You know, they happen, and it's not just you. There's so many people out there who have OCD, and there's so many people out there who have intrusive thoughts without having OCD. It's something that just is. And you're not alone. You know, it's hard, and that's what I've wanted to hear. You know, and I'm so lucky and blessed that I have people in my life who really love me and who will listen, even though these things can be really painful that I talk about. I'm always terrified to hurt someone with my thoughts or traumatize someone by telling them what's on my mind. I don't want people to think differently of me because of the things that come through my brain. I would never act on them. That's not something that defines me. And I want everyone to know that it doesn't define you either. You know, you are a person who has massive talents and lovely personality traits, and you're not evil for having these thoughts. You're not a fuck up. You're not just your OCD. You're not just those thoughts. You're not a monster, you know, because I know I have a lot of guilt and disgust with myself over having these thoughts. And sometimes I wish I had someone to say, it's not your fault, and you're not bad for having them. It's just something that comes with this disorder, and you didn't choose to have this disorder. You didn't choose to have these thoughts. It's just the way it is. And there are ways to help them, and some that I've found very helpful, because I want to give anyone who has OCD, or even just someone who has intrusive thoughts, I want to give my tools that I use. Sometimes they really don't do me any good. Yesterday I cried 3 times. And one of them was like late at night. I went and saw a friend for the first time since I left for England. So I hadn't seen her literally in a month. And we just had a crying session, because when I was talking about these thoughts, it was just so hard. And I don't want to cry now. I haven't really wanted to cry. Like, I've wanted to just not cry all day. I had therapy today, and I got to unpack some of it and talk about it, but it's hard, and I don't want anyone to suffer. So my recommendations, my tools that I use, you don't have to do them. That's just the way that I work through things. 1, write about it. I'm a writer. It is who I am in my very core. I am a writer. I love writing, and it helps me so much. It helps me process things. It helps me work through things I didn't even know needed work. Sometimes when I write things down, I'm like, oh shit. Well, I guess that's something that I need to process through. So that's something that I would highly recommend, is write it out, write your feelings out, write those thoughts out, so that they are somewhere tangible, so that they're not just in your head. Because when it's in your head, you feel alone. And I'm not alone. I've said before, I have internal friends. I have people inside of me, because of the trauma that I've gone through. They've developed over time. I am not alone in my life. I have roommates, mental roommates with me at all times. And it's hard for me with them. I still feel alone sometimes when I have these thoughts. So I can't even imagine someone who doesn't have the blessing that I have. So that's something that I would definitely try, is writing it out. You know, you don't even have to keep it. Another thing I would suggest that I've done before with, I've done it one time, and it was so cathartic. Burn it. Write it down and burn it. Watch it disappear. It goes up with the flames, and afterwards you can't see it tangibly. It's very symbolic of letting it purify through the fire, through the flames. The strongest warriors are forged by fire. That is something that I do believe highly. And fire is cleansing. You know, it's one of my biggest fears. I am terrified of fire. But when it's in a controlled setting, it is cleansing, and it helps to see those thoughts that are written out burn away. And I've done that one time with a letter, a letter that I wrote, a list of things that really, really got to me on a certain topic. I'm so sorry, just give me 1 second. Apologize. But yeah, that's something that I do, is write it out, you know, work through it on my own or with my therapist. And burning it is that one time I did it was so helpful. And I did it at a friend's house who had a fire pit. Always be safe, be cautious. Make sure that if you're going to do something like that, that you're careful. Because I live in an area where there's a high risk of creating a forest fire. So don't be careless, okay? Disclaimer, don't be careless. You know, if you choose to do that, that's you. And just be responsible with it. But yeah, I have a friend who has a fire pit, and she was there with me. She watched it burn with me. And it was super cathartic to have someone there with me, watch it disappear with me. So those are two incredible things I've done before that really help. The next thing is it's a skill called TIP, and it's a DBT skill. I did dialectical behavior therapy, which is the top treatment for borderline personality disorder. And TIP is basically a skill that involves body sensations. So the T is for temperature, and this is my favorite part of it. The I is for intense exercise, I believe. It's been a long time since I looked at it. I know the temperature one because that's something that I really, really benefit from. And then it has two P's. I think one of them is paced breathing. I could be wrong. And the other one is paired muscle relaxation. So I'm going to describe the first two because those are the ones I'm familiar with the most. But if you need guidance on how to do it, please look it up. It's TIP, T-I-P-P, DBT skill. Just put that into Google or whatever you use as your search browser, and voila, there it is. So temperature is basically you take a bucket of ice water, or even just a bowl of ice water, and you hold your face in it for, I don't remember the time period. I think it's like 20 to 30 seconds, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me. If you want to do it, definitely please look it up. I'm very out of practice with DBT. I do use some of the skills without even knowing it sometimes, because it impacted me very, very much, and it helped me learn skills to deal with the issues that I have instead of coping mechanisms that can be very harmful. But the temperature one, it basically activates your diver's reflex. So it causes a chemical reaction in your brain, and it helps you calm down. So sometimes when I have like a panic, like I don't really have panic attacks, but I do have anxiety attacks. My sister has panic attacks, and those are next level. But I do the temperature part of TIP, to calm myself down sometimes if I have access to cold water and ice. But yeah, you hold your face in there for, I think it's 20 to 30 seconds, and I have always had a result. Like, as soon as I lift my face out of that water, I feel refreshed. I feel calmer. And it's very beneficial for me, and maybe it'll be beneficial for you as well. So that's one of the skills that I use. The I believe, is for intense exercise. Going for a very brisk jog. So running, anything that causes your body to work. Vigorous exercise can be very helpful in distracting yourself from things like this. And that's true. I have had that work for me as well, so maybe it'll work for you as well. So definitely look up TIP. It is extremely beneficial. I'm sorry that I'm not as acquainted with it as I used to be. But please look it up. It's very, very good. Now, the most recent skill that I've come across that's been very beneficial to me is an app called No OCD. Basically, what it is it's spelled NOCD, and it's a community. It's free. It's a community where you and anyone else who has OCD can communicate. I recently posted on there about what's going on with me, and I had responses from people telling me what they suggested and telling me I'm not alone and that they understand, and that I'm not a bad person for having these thoughts. And it's been super beneficial. I've only been on there for a few days, and it has helped significantly. And the next thing that I would suggest is just talk about it. Find someone you trust, someone you know is going to be there for you, and not tell anyone if you don't want them to. I have a few different people that I've told about it. Like I said in my previous video, I think it might have cut off before I got to say this. I hid it when I was in England. I tried very hard to keep it under wraps because I didn't want to ruin anyone else's trip. I felt like I could deal with it on my own, but the more I tried to deal with it on my own, the worse it hurt because I felt alone. I felt like I was surrounded by people who were having a fantastic time, and I was just lurking in the background trying to deal with this pain that's not mine to deal with. It's not something that I should have to deal with. And I did tell my sister about it in detail. I told her about it. And I told my mom and my aunt that I was having a really hard time, that I was having intrusive thoughts that were very nasty. But I didn't go into detail with them because I didn't think they would understand. My sister doesn't have OCD, but she understands the thoughts. And she has other significant mental illness as well. So I knew that I could talk to her about it. Hey guys, sorry about that. I said something in that video that I'm not sure if I am allowed to share, so I cut it off because I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable or say something about someone that they were not ready for people to know. So yeah, I did talk to my sister about what happened, and she was there for me. But when I came back from England, I started talking about it to the people I know who love me and who are there for me. I spoke to my therapist about it today. I had a talk with my, she's a she's a physician's assistant, but she takes care of my medications. And I spoke to her about it yesterday. It was really hard to. She wanted to know what the thoughts were about, and she wanted to know how they started. And it was extremely difficult to tell her because it's embarrassing and it's hard and it's painful. And like I said, sometimes I feel like a horrible person for having these thoughts. But I did tell her, and she just was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But she came up with a very hands-on regimen for how we're going to deal with it, which I really appreciate. She has always been extremely aggressive with any issue that comes up. She wants to help me through the problems that I have, and she is going to war on these thoughts, and I appreciate that so much. I really do. And so I have a lot of support, and I have a couple friends that I've spoken to about it that I've been more open. And like I said yesterday, I had a crying session with one of my closest friends, and you know, it's helpful to talk about it. It can be very embarrassing, but it is helpful. So, if you are struggling with OCD, please understand you are not a bad person. It's not your fault. These thoughts, it's unfortunate and it's extremely unfair that you're having to deal with them. They're not yours to handle. They're not yours. They're not yours to take on. And I understand because I take on everything, even if it has nothing to do with me. I take it on, and it's just the way I am. I am an extremely emotional person. I am very sensitive to everything, and it is super hard because I do take things on that are not mine. And please know that you don't have to do that. It's the way it is, but there are things you can do to help yourself get relaxed and try to rid yourself of those thoughts. And sometimes you just have to sit with them. I've sat with them for a month. Sometimes you just have to sit through them and work through it, and figure out why this is so painful for you. And addressing that can be very helpful as well. But I would not recommend doing that. Like, if you're going to try that, please, just disclaimer, please do it carefully. And I would definitely recommend having a therapist do it with you, or someone who you trust, because doing it on your own can trigger you further, and that's extremely, extremely dangerous. So yeah, just talking about it has been helpful. And another thing that I wanted to mention, at night when I'm trying to go to sleep, I have narcolepsy, so I wake up frequently during the night. And I mean, like, I think the most I've woken up in a single night is 10, maybe 15 times. It's ridiculous, and I hate it. But I'm sleepy during the day. It is crazy. Yeah. So I have a hard time with sleep as is. It's a love-hate relationship. But when I'm going to sleep, especially recently, and I couldn't do this when I was in England, because I was sharing a room with my mom and my sister, I put on sleep meditations. There's one channel that I really love right now. Well, there's two. I love accents, like a calming voice, an accent. It gives me something else to focus on. Excuse me. And it's really relaxing. So the two channels I really love, I'll link them below in the description. But recently, I've been listening to Snooze with Sam. He's a Scottish man from the Isle of Skye, which is, I've never been, but I want to go because it's beautiful. But he tells all sorts of stories about Scotland and its history. He talks about different stories about places in Scotland, especially the Isle of Skye. And he tells stories, bedtime stories for adults. And his accent is so calming. His voice is very soothing. And I really, really love listening to him. He helps me a lot. I've been listening to him for the past couple nights. And then I also love the French Whisperer ASMR. He is fantastic. Very soothing voice as well. Thick accent, which I love. And he has all sorts on his channel. He has stories about ancient history. He has stories about different religions. He has stories about, like, mythology. He has a lot on his channel. And each of these channels, usually their videos can range from like 20, 30 minutes to like hours. And I usually go for the hours instead of the few minutes because it's really hit or miss if I go to sleep fast or slow. So whatever feels best for you, you'll find it. And if you can't find it through them, there are so many channels that are peaceful and helpful. I'm also learning Welsh right now. I'm learning French and Welsh because I am fascinated with language. There is another channel, and I do not remember what the channel's name is, but she's lovely. And I will link her below as well. But she does like classroom ASMR where she teaches a little bit of Welsh. And I found that helpful as well. Sometimes distracting because I am trying to learn Welsh. So sometimes if I just need to listen to someone calming and with a soothing voice before bed, I will listen to her. But she also has other things besides teaching Welsh, and she's very, very good as well. So yeah, I will link those people below. And this video I want it to be something that people can watch when they're having a hard time with this. You're not alone. By far, you're not alone. You have my love and my respect because it takes a lot to be able to handle these thoughts. And OCD is a very painful disorder, very stressful. And mad respect for you. And I hope that you can find some peace in what I've recommended. And any other skills you use. If you have any skills that you feel would be beneficial, please put them in the comments. These are just some that help me. So anyone else's experiences could help someone else more than what works for me. So if you have any comments or want to share what you do for intrusive thoughts or, obsessions, compulsions, or even other mental illnesses and their symptoms, please do share. It would be very, very cool. All right, so I'm going to head off now. I'm going to try and go to sleep. But I hope you guys take care of yourself because that's very important. And I will see you later. Bye.